just doing some SS work. I take the drink like I know what I'm doing. Am I athletic? No. Ring-a-ding-ding.
Welcome everybody to episode 2 of our character bios, featuring Drix Blom, orphan child, disgraced scout service surveyor, and mediocre bell player. As always, you have our heartfelt thanks for being a subscriber. And remember, if you join the Spaceballer level, you can get your very own character bio, up to 10 minutes long, here on the public portion of the Galactic Nomad Patreon site. And don't miss our science fiction and optioned books to movies podcast, available where all fine podcasts are downloaded. And now for the origins of Drix Blom. Drix Blom was born on the volcanic planet of Plox 6 in the newly colonized Neurat system. His father Drox was a pilot for Gravitas Inc., and his mother Stella was an ornithologist studying the wild birds of Plox 6. When he was 8 years old, his mother was attacked by a flock of Vibers when she unexpectedly came upon a communal nesting area. A tiny woodpecker-like bird that lives in families made of hundreds, Viber flocks can occupy dozens of trees which they hollow out for their nests, and they've also been known to hollow out intruders and nests in their bones. They are extremely territorial and ultra protective of their young. After a week-long search, rescuers found her hollowed out bones hanging from a tree, housing a clutch of baby birds. When he was 10 years old, he met Pernicky Fuzzlebottom when Drix's father flew them to an observation site. Drix had accompanied his father on the mission, and the two children hit it off immediately. They shared the same sense of curiosity and adventure. The young Drix enjoyed Ghent Sr.'s lessons and was amused by his lack of concern for all the dangers around them. When he was 15 years old, Drix's father died in an accident when a volcanic eruption spewed tons of dust into the path of his aircraft, clogging the engines. Drix spent a year in an orphanage because the death rate on the colony planet tends to be high. Then Ghent Sr. invited Drix to live with him. Drix spent the next 2 years living with the old man and Pernicky. Shortly after, Drix turned 18, and before he applied to Ploxus University, named after the CEO of Gravitas, Ghent Sr. died of a massive heart attack while scaling a cliff on Plox 5. The heartbroken young man performed poorly on the university entrance exam and failed to be accepted. He applied to enter the Scout Corps and was accepted shortly after. The Scout Corps recognized the skills he learned from his years with Ghent Sr. and employed him as a surveyor. His assignments did not allow for much free time. Many missions were highly classified and took him to the edges of the consortium. As a result, he had only intermittent contact with Pernicky over the years, though they were able to meet several times when their work brought them into the same sector. In his third term as a scout, he served as an intermediary between the Scout Corps and the Ivini. The Ivini are a Gnomoid race who average about a foot taller than the gnomes of the consortium. They live primarily in darkness and have large round eyes, white skin, and elongated ears that sweep back behind their head. The Ivini originated from their home planet of Eevee and carved out a small cluster of systems for themselves on the edge of the Oslon and Consortium empires in the Trojan Reach. The Ivini are not as technically advanced as their neighbors, but are renowned for their training and discipline, making the best of what they have. After many skirmishes throughout the years, the two races settled into an uneasy peace. Drix's mission was to coordinate reconnaissance missions with his Ivini counterpart by the name of Cedro into the Aslan territory. Drix and Cedro set up several listening outposts among the asteroid belts along the Aslan border systems before returning to their fleets. Several years later, Drix was able to see Pernicky on the laboratory ship studying the gas giant Fernicus 7. After a brief stay, Drix headed back to the Ivini-Aslan border to meet with his contact Cedro for another mission. On the way, he encountered a distress signal. Normally, he would ignore a distress signal as was Scout protocol when on missions, but as his mission had not officially started, and the signal was a high-level Consortium military code, he stopped to respond. That was the last thing he remembered. His memory of everything after the signal was blank. He woke up in an army hospital in the Five Sisters sector world of Karen, far from where he had traced the distress signal. Scout Corps negotiators told him he was found unconscious by a far trader crew on the edge of the shipping lanes in the empty space between the Trojan Reach and the Spinward Marshes. The crew nearly passed by for fear it being a pirate trap, but one of the older senior members named Yazfiz Tinkerfitz insisted a rescue attempt be made. They discovered the unconscious Drix in a coma and brought him to the nearest army base where he was stabilized before transfer to better facilities on Cairn. Drix was found nowhere near where he allegedly discovered the distress call. He had also been missing for 5 months and had been classified as missing in action and presumed dead. Although skeptical, the negotiators cleared Drix of any wrongdoing. However, they did not trust his loss of memory, and he was released from service. For his stellar work along the Consortium Oslan border, Drix was granted use of a reserve ship on the condition Drix take responsibility for its care and bring it into CISS facilities for its yearly upkeep. At the time of these yearly yard periods, the service would evaluate the situation and decide if the ship would remain in Drix's care. However, there was no reserve ship available at the time, and he was put on the wait list. Stuck on Cairn, Drix contacted the far trader crew that rescued him to see if he could gather more information the Consortium negotiators may have missed, a clue as to what had happened to him. He was introduced to Yazfiz Tinkerfitz, who had spearheaded the rescue operation. But Yazfiz could not offer him any revelations. It did not take them long to discover they grew up in the same system, and had a common friend in Pernicky Fuzzlebottom, who had often spoke of one to the other. The two gnomes began an irregular correspondence throughout the next several years. They met in person once shortly after Yazfiz retired and passed through the Cairn starport on his way to the sector capital of Iderati. Drix spent several years on Cairn working low-level survey and other odd jobs. Although he was completely overqualified for most of the work he took, he was hopeful the next day would be the day he received his ship and could leave the planet and get back into space. At least that's what he told himself. Shortly after his rescue, he began to dream of bells. He heard them in his sleep, and more acutely when he was awake. Doorbells, holiday bells, jingle bells, bells and children's toys. They called to him, clutched at him. One day he passed a musical troupe playing in the park. One of them, a woman, stood with 5 bells of varying sizes on the table before her. She picked them up, sometimes held them 2 at a time, and used them to punctuate the notes of her fellow performers. After the show, Drix looked up the nearest music store and purchased bells and lessons. He practiced incessantly, and within a year found his own fledgling group to play in. Soon his skills surpassed his bandmates, and he moved on from group to group as his skills grew. Eventually he won 4th chair in the local symphony. But life on Cairn was still missing the adventure of discovery, and he continued his life as a part-time surveyor and minor musician while he waited for a new opportunity to come along. And so that's where we leave Drix. Like so many vets, abandoned and left behind by the government he defended. Hopefully you already tuned in to our Traveler RPG podcast and have caught up on what Drix and the crew are doing. Remember to like our Galactic Nomads Facebook page and join our closed group, which is for patrons only. You are certainly welcome to comment here, but the group is the best way to engage the entire crew. Look for episode 3, Yazfiz Tinkerfitz. Until then, don't forget to give back to the mega corporations that give so much to you. Space out!